All right, so let's go ahead and start on Chapter 3, Section 3, some of the homework problems. We're going to start with problem number 8 on page 181. W over 6 is less than 1. Okay? You're going to solve these the same way as we solved our equations, except it is an inequality. So instead of an equal sign, it has an inequality sign. It does not affect the way that you actually solve these problems. You are still going to isolate your variable by doing the opposite of what is shown in the problem. Okay? So when you look at W over 6 in your head, you should be thinking division. And so the opposite of division is what? Multiplication. So you are going to multiply each side by 6. Okay? The ones on the left, the 6 and the 6 on the left, cancel out and you're left with W. And is less than 1 times 6, which is 6. And that's your answer. Okay? Now, it also asks you to graph the solution. So you will then draw a number line. And just like we've been doing in class, you're going to graph 3 different numbers. Not graph 3 different numbers. You're going to represent 3 different numbers on your number line. The first one being 0, which always remains in the middle. The second one being your answer, which in this case is positive 6. And the third one being its opposite, which is negative 6. We do this to show placement on the number line, for you to acknowledge that you know that going right from a 0 is positive and going left from a 0 is negative. Okay? So when you graph it, you're going to draw your dot on 0. Now, because this is simply just a less than and not a less than or equal to, it does not include your 6. And so you will have an open dot. All right? And it's less than, which less than is left. And you move left from your positive 6 and draw your arrow left. I'll draw it a little bit above the number line so that you can be able to see it. And that would be how you graph W is less than 6. Okay? I'll leave that up there so you can finish checking your work. All right, so let's go ahead and move to a one with a fraction. These tend to be a little bit more confusing for you. So let's go to number 10 on page 181. And the problem is 1 is less than or equal to 5 over 4. Actually, negative 5 over 4. Why? Okay? So this is the same exact way you do these as the way that you do the other ones. You are looking at this problem and identifying the operation that you see. Negative 5/4 y is multiplication. It is negative 5/4 times y. Okay? So when you're looking at it, you're thinking in your head the opposite of multiplication, which is what? Division. So you divide by negative 5/4 on each side. Okay? So on the right side, they cancel, and you're left with a y on the right side. And on the left side, you have 1 divided by negative 5/4. Okay? Now, when dividing fractions, do we divide fractions? We do not. Good job. We multiply them and flip the second fraction. So we never have to divide fractions. We need to make our first number, which is a 1, into a fraction. And how do we do that? Put it over 1. Then we need to change our division to multiplication. And then we need to flip the second fraction. Okay? And we're left with 1 over 1 times negative 4/5. And then we solve it. 1 times negative 4 is what? And 1 times 5 is what? All right? So on our left side, let's move back up here. We were solving this side. So on our left side, I'm going to go to a new page. we are left with negative 4/5. And then we have our less than or equal to sign in the middle. Oh gosh. Sorry. And then we have on the right side our y. Hold on. Okay, yeah, that's right. All right, so I just rewrote the problem. On the left side, we replaced what was on the left side with what we had solved, which was negative 4/5, is less than or equal to y. Okay, and now at any point did we divide by a negative or multiply by a negative each side? Let's go back to our original one. Okay, look at this right here. Were we dividing each side by a negative? So what does that cause the sign to do? What happens when we multiply each side or divide each side by a negative? The sign flips. So instead of less than, we now have greater than or equal to y. Okay, those are a little more confusing, but if you know how to divide fractions, then they're just as simple as the other ones. Any questions on that one?